Well, I wanted to hit, beginning of the year where we're still at and just look at what's the pulse on small business. I feel in some ways culturally a little more confused than ever. It's so hard to keep track of what's going on and what to believe and whatever. And I just thought, what about business? I mean, here on the Ziglar Show, we talk so much about business. So many people are doing things. So many things have shifted. It seems like the buzzword for recent months is pivot, in business. How do you pivot? And I thought, who has a good pulse on this? How about my dad, Dan Miller, the 48 days to the work you love guy who everybody turns to for this stuff, and just wanted to do that, just to have a candid conversation about what are you seeing? You touch so many people every single day. I mean, you just got back from lunch with what, bunch of businessmen?
Right. A bunch of entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so that you've seen that and you've seen people, I mean, since COVID, not to make this a COVID show, but obviously we can't talk about anything without the relevance of what that's done in the past. What are we at now? 10 months since it's
Right.
really been acute.
10 months. Uh-huh.
Um, that has changed the face of business in ways that will never go back. Uh, but that's what I want to get into. That's what I want to get into right there. I mean, what do you see when you look at business? What are some highlights of things that you see are working and not working, are growing and are going away, are, maybe you're going to come back, maybe you're gone forever, kind of that thing. I mean, I know that in the space that you're in, there's a lot of, is that fair to say, infopreneurs?
Yes, very much so. Yeah. Intellectual property. Uh-huh.
Okay. But then a lot of those, like you do a lot of events, in-person events,
That's right. A
speaking.
lot of conferences, a lot of speaking.
Like, let's jump right there. I mean, where it's hard to believe that's ever going to happen again. I mean, we got to assume that it will, but holy smokes. I mean, if you're a professional speaker or you're used to doing those in-person groups or you're used to going to those. I mean, how many people relied on that for their quarterly or annual jolt of motivation and inspiration to go to those things? And we have no light at the end of the tunnel at the moment, do we?
Not in terms of going back to the way things are, but
Okay, true.
that's not how I think.
I know. Okay.
There, there is light at the end of the tunnel, but it's
A
different.
different color light.
That's right. Different than what we've been used to. But that's what we saw happen. We saw massive change. And for some people, that can be really intimidating. It came, it was unexpected, it was unwelcome. And so it forced us all to change. But this is where mindset becomes really important, and the things that you talk about so much here on the Ziglar Show. Mindset can prepare you for that so it's not as devastating as it is for some people. If you wanted things to stay the same, and if you're used to having things just one year after the next the same, then last year was a devastating year. But if you really are an entrepreneur, and just to use that as an example, I know not everybody is, but if you're an entrepreneur, I mean, we eat change for breakfast, man. We get up expecting change. That's what makes us thrive. So it really wasn't devastating in the same way. Now, you used the term pivot, and yes, a lot of people had to figure out new ways to do things. I mean, I did. So it wasn't a matter of getting out there and speaking. And I had conferences booked like with universities. Well, the universities said, gee, we can't do that in March like we had planned or May, but we'll schedule it for October. And then some of them kind of tentatively opened doors. And then they told me, you know what? We can't do this event because students aren't coming back. Now here's the thing about that we need to kind of unpack a little bit. There are a lot of people, workers, students, other people who discovered the freedom of not going to a confined space, and they discovered that it really works pretty well. Workers who discovered they can work from home, and employers who decided, wow, why do we pay for this real estate for people to sit in there if they can do their work from home? Universities are discovering, I mean, universities right now are like ghost towns. We're never going to go back to the same kind of model because students have discovered we can get the very brightest instructors in the world by simply turning on our computers. There are students right now who are paying $60,000 to go to Harvard, and all they're doing is just computer assisted learning. How long do you think that model is going to last?
Yeah.
It's not. People are going to say, this is nuts. Why am I paying that kind of money when I'm not doing anything but just turning on a computer where I can get access to the finest brains in the world and often at no cost at all? So we're going to see massive changes there. Churches who all of a sudden, I mean, we were contacted a lot this last year by pastors who thought they were secure and then found out, no, they're not, because churches can't meet. I mean, whoever anticipated that coming? And the anticipation is now, I heard a stat just yesterday that predicted 45% of people will not go back to church.
Wow.
Not that they're losing their spirituality, but they've discovered they can stay connected and they can grow spiritually without having to go to a building on Sundays. It's
Yeah.
going to dramatically change that. And when it comes to business, we've seen people who, let's take speaking as an example. You know, our mutual friend, Kent Julian, been a friend of ours for years. He's a speaker. That's what he does. March hit, and all of a sudden, he had 21 events that he was booked for cancel. That's his income. That's
Yeah.
100% of his income is going to speak. I just interviewed him. Here we are in January 2021. I just interviewed him. He said that he has to go back and look, but he's pretty confident that he had the biggest third and fourth quarter that he ever had in his life. That's somebody who understands how to pivot. What he discovered is that organizations they would normally speak for just as a keynote speaker were really open to the idea of training. So he developed some training modules, and thus he was able to scale what he was doing way beyond what he can do when he's there individually in front of a group of people.
Yeah, and I did hear that from others. I thought you were going to say Pete Vargas as well. He's another
Pete
mutual friend of
Vargas,
ours.
absolutely
Yeah, and that was his, man, that was his thing.
exploded.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, a gentleman who in my mastermind, Chris Niemeyer, his primary business was a travel agency. So he helps missionaries, but then also entrepreneurs plan cruise trips, trips abroad, and all that. That was his cash cow. It was sitting there pretty much on cruise control, making him a couple $100,000 a year. And all of a sudden, March came along of last year, it went to zero. Nobody's traveling. Everybody wanted refunds. He finished out the year. Just last week, he was texting me about which Maserati should he buy. He ended up buying a really bodacious Audi sedan, 420 horsepower. The thing screams. That's how he ended up his year, which is a pretty good indication. He found some other things to do. He pivoted into some real estate investments and has really found a sweet spot there. And he leveraged that dramatically during the year, ended up in great shape. So we see people, it's surprising to hear these stories over and over and over again. Were there businesses that were impacted in a negative way? Absolutely. There's a whole lot of people who figured out the next opportunity by not getting trapped in desperation, sitting on the curb, wringing their hands, but saying, what does this make possible? And they found things to move into.
Well, on that, what makes possible, I think it was, do you still get Roy H. Williams, his Monday morning memo?
Yes, I sure do.
I think it was this week, and I think it was him that talked about him pondering. And I appreciate him saying, in some of these areas, he said, I have no idea what's going to happen. But that with people working remotely, you were talking about universities, people working remotely, and how many companies are realizing the productivity. I think he said not only stayed the same, but increased with so many employees. They're never going to go back to an office with 500 people, which is going to leave a lot of real estate vacant, and just wondering. Yeah. A lot of people I'm sure like me wondering, oh my gosh, I wish I'd have thought about half of this stuff 10 months ago. This is where my investment money would have gone. I never would have considered, what are the changes that are going to happen as opposed to this quarantine. And obviously we hear so much about people who had a hard time, but there's also people who have made billions, as uh,
Absolutely.
from this. Well, but what, if we look at small business America, then when people come to you, and I know this isn't a fair question. It's kind of like, my buddy Randy, your doctor, my doctor, and people ask, what's the best exercise to do, Dr. James? He says, whatever the heck you'll do every day. And
That's
so,
right.
what's the best business, Dan? And you're going to go, whatever fits you. So I
That's
got
right.
that. We got that. With that said, when you look at the scope of the landscape of small business, some of those areas have gone away. I mean, right now, if you want to be a public speaker and go get paid, now you can do it online. I know people have done well with online things, but public speaking is, that is not happening right now. Putting on live events, whatever, whether it's musical events, art events, or personal development, and those are not happening in that fashion anymore. And so if you're have a business that provides catering, or yeah, what are some of the businesses that you've seen? I mean, they're just right now, they are gone, and they're going to be gone for a while. I mean, the people that you used to pay to come and set things up for an event and cater things and whatever, who knows when that'll be back? I mean, those,
Yeah, there are some businesses like retail businesses
yeah.
that have gone away and will never recover again. I mean, Amazon, when you consider their business was up 43% this year, it tells us people have gotten used to the idea instead of running down the street to the store to buy paper clips, you just order it and it's there the next day. So there are some industries like Amazon with their delivery and all that that have exploded as a result of this. There are a lot of businesses that have been hurt by it, and there are businesses that have been fueled by it as well.
Yeah.
But I talked to an Uber driver the other day. I was going somewhere, and he was saying, there's not many people traveling right now. And I said, what are all the Uber? He said they just switched. They're doing DoorDash. They're doing
Oh,
Grubhub. They're delivering food. They're delivering other products in the same model, but a different kind of clientele. So they just realigned for that. I'm
well,
looking at you. You mentioned properties. Yeah, I've got a realtor feeding me properties right now because I said, show me the properties that are vacant that are available. Properties that used to be office space or retail space
so
that are now
commercial
vacant.
properties you're talking about.
Commercial properties, and they are the number is just outrageous. They're everywhere. And I'm looking at those. How could we repurpose that for
Yeah.
other use? How could we make a business incubator for small businesses that want a place outside the home, but they're like you and me, and they're doing a small business where they could get together. We could have some shared service, some brainstorming, create almost a mastermind for small businesses by repurposing. There are hotels that are vacant. Think about that. I mean, a hotel where it's just a single room, but it has a bathroom and shower in it. I mean, it's perfect setup for small businesses. That also, I'm talking to some friends who have repurposed a couple of hotels into housing, low income housing. So it's not a fancy apartment, it's just a single room. But if you rent those for 500 bucks a month, you have people standing in line for those because it meets a need in the market that has not been met well historically. I love those kind of ideas that are coming out.
Well, so let me ask you about some areas. You work with a lot of coaches. We got a lot of coaches in the Ziglar audience. What has happened with coaching in general? And you got people doing life coaching, career coaching, of course. You got people doing fitness, health and wellness coaching. Where do you see what's happening there, good and bad?
There are thousands of people who have been thrown into this space where they have to figure out what they're going to do next because of the uncertainty and because of the new work models. There's a whole lot of people that are saying, I need some guidance to help me through this. It's a absolute smorgasbord for coaches right now because there's so many people saying, yes, I need to reassess where I am. I can't just rely on things being the same as they were last year. No, I need to know what I'm moving toward, not just what I'm coming from. I mean, I heard, I went to a luncheon last week and we had a gentleman there who is a futurist. So he was talking about the future and where we're going. He says that starting in 2020, we've just entered the decade where we're going to see more change than human history has ever experienced in a 10-year period of time. Now, there have been people before that who have predicted that, so it remains to be seen. But, he's saying things like the invention that has changed humanity more than anything else by far is electricity. It's
Mhm.
affected our lives more than anything else. He said AI, artificial intelligence, is going to have more of an impact on us than electricity did. We're going into that. But he says we need to learn how to be the parents of our future rather than the offspring of our past.
Wow.
Yeah, which I love that statement.
You know Benjamin Hardy, don't you?
Yes.
He's writing a book right now, Become Your Future Self.
Okay.
That's the book he's working on right now. And yesterday, I ended up, we were supposed to be recording a show. Tom Ziglar and I talked for an hour and a half just about life and what's happening. He starts talking to me about just what you're talking about, AI and the change and how rapid. And he starts quoting this stuff. I said, man, where'd you get that? I want to read that. He said, it's a book, The Future is Faster Than You Think by Stephen Kotler and Peter Diamandis. I just interviewed Stephen
I
2 weeks ago,
I
but it was
listened
on
to
his
that.
other book, The Art of Impossible. So I just contacted Stevens folks and said, I think I want to talk to him about this book. So I haven't even read it yet. So they're sending the book and I want to talk about that. But yeah, some of the new things that are coming up, the changes that are coming and the rapid changes and artificial intelligence, which is not something that I have spent a lot of time looking at. But along with your guy, I keep hearing the same message by a lot of smart people coming up. So I want to understand.
Well, if you ought to be getting Peter Diamandis updates that he sends out every couple of days. It's got the latest, greatest. The things that he's predicting are phenomenal. But he's a brilliant mind in that space. What's happening with AI and future?
How about franchises? I know you deal with a lot of folks who have franchises who may be a good fit to go after that. Actually, wait a minute. No, I forgot though. On coaches, you said a lot of people are going to coaches. Obviously, then by proxy, we would say there's an opportunity for people who want to become a coach in certain areas. Yes, I saw the eyebrows go up there,
Well,
but
get
go
well,
ahead.
as you know, we have a coaching mastery training.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, you think I was positioned well for
You're
what's happening?
position. So I was gonna when I thought of it, I wanted give me a top level freebie counsel for everybody out there who's thinking about being, a coach. They're hearing you. There's a lot of opportunity. They've thought about being a coach right now, but there are more people, more opportunity, but also means there's more noise, more competition.
That's right.
Okay, speak to
Well, with,
that.
with coaching, I tell people we got good news and bad news.
Yeah,
The good news is anybody can be a coach. The bad news is anybody
anybody could
can
be
be
a
a coach.
coach. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's a mixed blessing because of the opportunity. There's a whole lot of people who just get up in the morning and say, okay, and now I'm a coach. Pay me. Well, that's pretty tough to assume that you can just put on a hat in the morning and be a coach. Coaching, like Zig talks so much about selling. You don't have people who are just natural born salespeople. We hear that term incorrectly. So people learn how to sell. And if you have a proclivity to do it well, fantastic. Start with that, but then learn how to do it well. Same thing is true of coaching. When I ask people who say, can I be a coach? My first question is, are people coming to you now asking for your advice and opinion? If
Yeah.
they are, we maybe can position you then with some training and structure to be a coach. That's the real critical question. If they aren't, then yeah, let's look at something else. It's probably not a good
Can
fit.
I ask you another caveat on that? It's something that I come to frequently, but I just always feel so important because with that, obviously I'm grateful that in the position I am. I have a lot of people that come and ask me for advice, and yet, as everybody probably knows, I don't offer any coaching packages. I do occasionally, and it did in the past. I like to just segment it by consult. What's the issue? Let's do an initial session and give a
All right.
direction, give counsel and direction, do that. I do like doing that. I struggle with coaching though, with the ongoing coaching. It's not a great fit for me. Can you speak to that for the people who like the concept, but I do see a difference because I'm a great candidate for that. I did coaching, tried to, did well, but I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't a good fit for my personality, my bent. But the consulting, I can do that. I enjoy that part, the kind of the front end. Here's the
Yeah.
direction and go.
You kind of unpacked it right there. Let's look at three terms: counseling, coaching, and consulting.
Okay.
Counseling implies this is going to be a long-term process. Gee, because of the way your mommy potty trained you, we're going to talk about that for the next 2 years and hope that you start to feel better. Now, I'm obviously exaggerating. Coaching comes in between there. Coaching is like, okay, here's where you are. Where do you want to be 3 years from now? What decisions do you need to make to get there? Now, that can be a one-time thing. It can be ongoing. Mine, as you know, I stick with my 48 days brand. I have a package that I coach people for 48 days. So it's not a long period of time. And in that, we do an intensive burst of focused activity to get you in a new direction and get you off and running. Consulting is more like what you talk about, where you may come into an organization, spend 2 days with them, look at the things they could do to improve their productivity, efficiency, or whatever. You make the recommendations, you leave. You're not even there for the implementation, you leave. So that's kind of a just kind of a thumbnail sketch of counseling, coaching, and consulting. But if people are, as you say, coming to you asking for your advice and opinion, you're certainly overlooking an opportunity to not provide something to
Yeah.
deliver that. Call it what you want to, but if they're asking, wow, people are willing to invest in the process to get new results.
Can we lay that out there though for people who heard you saying, yeah, there's great opportunity in the coaching world these days that, one, discern where is your heart bent expertise. Is it in counseling? Is it in coaching? Is it consulting? Because those are different things. Not that they can't encompass some or have some overlap, but those are different things. One, and then two, speak to your feelings today on niching.
Yeah. And I want to be quick to add here, coaching should not be a default position. Well, gee, nothing else is working, so I'll be a coach. That would be a horrible kind of thing. That would be like, God called me to be a missionary after 4 months of trying to look for a job and I couldn't find anything. So maybe this is it. I'm not a fan of that. Coaching ought to be at the primary forefront if it's something you're really drawn to, if you have that proclivity for it, an attraction to it.
Well, even that to what you said, are people coming to you asking for advice? That's question number one, I guess. Then question number two is, do you enjoy doing that?
Absolutely.
It,
Yeah.
it,
This
it's
should not be a hardship, a burden.
Yeah, because some of it, again, I enjoy part of it, and then it becomes a burden, and that's kind of why I burnt myself out of that as well. But yeah, talk about the niche then aspect of it, of how to position yourself to stand out.
Yeah. It's like branding. If you are just going to be a coach who helps people achieve things that they've never achieved before, you help leaders navigate through change. I mean, you put yourself in a camp where there's thousands and thousands of other people. Everything in there is generic. So we encourage coaches to identify a niche. Doesn't mean that you can only do one thing, but become known for something. What makes you distinctive? What is it that people are going to think about when they think about you? And I've got a guy who just joined our coaching mastery program. He has two bricks and mortar facilities already for drug testing. He has a history in law enforcement of drug testing, and he's developing programs. He works with major companies like Frontier. Actually, he's from out in your area, works with Frontier and big companies like that to do their drug testing. But now we're helping him create a model to replicate where it would be a franchise. His coaching opportunity is in so many people coming into him, employers coming to him saying, how can I detect early signs of drug abuse? What should I look for when I'm screening people to potentially hire them? He's framing that as a coaching opportunity, a coaching package. So rather than just be a casual conversation because he's doing the drug testing, no, you really want to learn about that? I've got a coaching process for you,
Okay.
and whatever it is. So if it's health, become known for something. If it's parenting or marriage or life or career, whatever it is, become known for something that's distinctive in that space. As with me, as you know well, I'm known primarily still as a career coach. Well, you Google career coach and you're going to get 13, 14 million sites. I mean, I'm in there somewhere, certainly. I don't know where, doesn't really matter, because you put in 48 days, I'm going to own the first two pages of a Google search.
Yeah.
Not because I paid for fancy SEO, because I'm the guy who says you don't have to just wait till all the lights are green, wait till you pay off your student loans, wait till the kids graduate. No, I'm the guy who says you can change your life dramatically in 48 days if you create a plan and act on it. And that has worked like magic for me. for many years.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I saw that well and lesson well learned. I hope everybody hears that one. You know, you mentioned with that guy franchises, which I started to get into
Yeah.
initially. I mean, that's one. I know a guy who does a lot of, or multiple people does a lot of work in franchising in general. It's always a hot topic in small business. I have no idea what's been happening to franchises. Is it as simple as, hey, the ones that are still in need are doing great, and the ones that didn't that COVID wrecked are in bad news? But what are the opportunities in franchising right now that you're seeing?
If you were focused totally on bricks and mortar locations, they took a big hit.
Yeah.
But there's franchises for pretty much any kind of business you can imagine. So if it is in the intellectual property space, there are franchises for that. Those that were based on physical locations. So if it's fast food, a lot of them have done extremely well by focusing on their delivery or
Yeah. Yeah.
curbside pickup and discovering that it requires less overhead and expense for them to not have people inside. So there's ways to make it work. We aren't going to see franchises go away. It's a very legitimate model. It just simply means you created a prototype and it works. And now you can share that model with other people and they'll pay you for the privilege of knowing a model that's already been proven to work. Very
So
legit. So much of our commerce has gone. I mean, when you drive into any mall area, you're going to see restaurants and the stores. Most of them are franchises.
yeah.
I mean, people recognize having just company owned stores that expand is a very capital intensive, very expensive, slow way to expand. Whereas if you create a franchise, other people invest their money and you can spread the word, spread the brand much, much quicker.
What's what's happened, or what do you see happening? Because when you mentioned some of the drive-throughs, I see McDonald's that's near our office is always full, unfortunately, in my opinion. But they're doing well, obviously. Now Starbucks, that's a place we've got one of the most amazing. I think it's the highest elevation Starbucks in America here in
Wow.
Woodland Park. It overlooks Pikes Peak. It's got one of my favorite place to sit out in the back, and so that's a place where I was generally found sitting there at least twice a week minimum. Plus, going through the drive-through as well. Well, now they had a little bit of time when it was open, but now it's shut down again. There's no indoor seating there. It's just a drive-through. Now, when I look in there, all the employees who I know, they're still there. I think they seem to be running as many people working in it as they ever were, because the drive-through is just full. So okay, we see that side of it. But over here, and I thought about that when you mentioned the universities,
Yeah.
that people are realizing that they can get the education just as well, maybe not better, or maybe if not better, I'm sorry, and should be cheaper. We would think they can get it out here on their own. But in both of those cases, though, we're missing out on the social aspect, and how many kids went to college just to, as your wife said, just to find a husband, or just to find friends, or just to find. I mean, even the Silicon Valley story of the guys who went to college and never finished the first year because they got together and formed a business together, and it was that coming together socially. Same thing at Starbucks. How many people are there to be together? Specifically, even the working co-working spaces that were so popular. I don't know what's happened with them necessarily, with COVID, but if we took away all those social things, what's happening business wise? There's got to be a void there. I saw somebody recently saying, hey, I know you can go do Peloton and theoretically be with other people, but you're still alone by yourself at home. You're still not face to face. You're not meeting new people authentically. you know so what is happening? How is that affecting business? And again, are there some opportunities showing up there?
Yeah. You really tapped into something important in this whole issue because it is different. Learning by yourself is much different than learning with people around you. University of Phoenix was one of the first ones to offer at home training, online training, and they
Yeah.
exploded in size because of that. They had Keith Ferrazzi
Mm-hmm.
wrote, he's an author. One of his books was Never Eat Alone. And University of Phoenix paid him an enormous amount of money to go around to their different locations and train their people on the power of teaching students to have a study buddy.
Hmm.
They discovered that if somebody had a study buddy, they were 3 times as likely to finish as they were doing it on their own.
Wow.
There's immense power in community. I had a long conversation with Dave Ramsey just last week. As you know, he recently built a $60 million campus, has over 1,000 employees. They had just moved into that in March when all this happened. And he was forced, against his will, but forced to have people work from home. And so they did that for a period of a couple months. People are back now, but a couple of months they're working home. And I asked him, so do you know, did people become spoiled? They realized they could just work from home. Did you realize you really don't need all these fancy offices for people to? He says, no, here's what happened. In short, it's this. He said they never missed a goal. They never missed a quota. They were able to maintain everything they had set out to accomplish last year. What they missed was the creativity and innovation for moving forward. So he described it as they were able to maintain, they lost that sense of imagination, dreaming together that drives them into new areas of productivity. That's pretty important.
Yeah.
And we've seen that in companies, major companies like AT&T, Best Buy, and others who moved very quickly to remote workers. You can work anywhere you want to, but a lot of them are instituting plans. Yeah, it really, we lost something in doing that. It's not just the raw productivity. We need this synergy of people coming together, working together. We aren't going to lose that forever. We aren't going to lose.
So even the Zoom calls where you can have, 15 people in a room, you don't
Yeah,
think is, and what was the new one that everybody's talking about? I saw you talking about Clubhouse. I,
Clubhouse.
I keep getting invites for that. I haven't done it yet, but
Yeah, Clubhouse. It's all real time. There's no saved archived content. It's real time. It's verbal, and you're just there. And anyway, the other people who are trying to come up with ways to replicate what we lost by being together in a room.
but you're
But
saying that
you know,
still we're not gonna usurp that, the face to face magic.
it's still different. Yeah, you and I can here on Zoom together, both eat a sandwich. That's different than sitting around a table,
Yeah.
joking together and seeing each other. It just is different. And
Yeah.
so in the same way, when we talk about academic models, I mean, the European academic model has always been to get together in small groups and you learn from discourse. Now, our American academic model is more one of just you have somebody up front and they're talking to the group, you regurgitate. It's very, very different. But the European model has always been get together, the Socratic method. We learn by discussion. So we have to have conversation to really enhance the process of learning. And we're going to see that people who miss the connectivity they were experiencing at church, but also, in restaurants. So we're going to see that continue. That's not going away. We're not going to just learn to live individually. That defies a whole lot of things we know about humanity.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me run to another category because you mentioned the increase in Amazon. We got a lot of people out there who have products, some type of let's go to physical products that they are selling. What has happened there? Because again, I don't know. But I'm pondering. I do wonder. I mean, Amazon is, the behemoth these days. And you're right. It used to be Walmart. I've got a Walmart a mile and a half from me, maybe, that I have no need to ever go to.
That's
It's
right.
not ever worth my time. I go on Amazon and I buy it. Most of the stuff that I'm buying on Amazon are the commodity products for the most part. They're the instant hot water tea kettle for home. It's the office supplies, books, of course, entertainment things, electronics, yada yada. I'm going to put them in the commodity. Premium stuff, though, I do get elsewhere. I just recently got some Birkenstocks. You remember those?
Oh, yeah.
Because I hurt my foot, so I'm trying to do some stuff and got those. And I went to Birkenstock and got it, directly from them. But for people who have a product, I guess maybe that's the differentiation. Is it premium or is it a commodity? Is that fair? As
But I'm
far as
not sure it's a fair question, but I don't know that there's really a distinction there. I
okay,
just got delivered yesterday a high-end elevating desk, which I'm thrilled about. I
What'd you
did
get? What brand?
autonomous.
Hmm. Okay, I don't even.
It's killer.
Yeah.
Anyway, I did not take the time to go to a store where they're going to have one or two brands. I had the luxury of looking at high-end desks online
Yeah.
and watch videos, see testimonials from people. So I got a really broad overview of that arena and made my decision and purchased there. And UPS delivered it.
Did you purchase directly from them or
I
through?
purchased directly from the company.
You did. Okay.
Yes. I
Okay.
did. Yeah, I interacted with them, purchased directly from them. But even there, so on a high-end product, I have the luxury of not having to spend days and days and days going to different stores, different markets to research all. I can just jump online and do it there. It's changed. It's
So what
wild.
but what's the counsel then for somebody who has a physical product? So let's say that they did have a brick and mortar, that's not happening as much. They're going online, but there are so many things that you can get on Amazon. As you know, we're going to be soon coming out with our own supplement line, and we're working with a manufacturer that goes to great lengths to not be available on Amazon. Now they do that to make sure that they can control the delivery, that it's not sitting in some hot warehouse losing its efficacy,
Right.
over time. That may not be the case if you're selling, a widget or something. Doesn't that doesn't matter. But is that if you've got a product these days, it's all happening. More and more is happening online. Are you better off, or when are you better off to try to align with an Amazon? Have your product there, as opposed to have it come just from you, exclusively from you.
Amazon has so many advantages. It's very difficult to compete with them. When you say control the delivery, I mean, there's nobody I know where I can order something this afternoon and it's here tomorrow. Nobody's competing with that model yet. And speed and efficiency will make you wealthy. We've
Mhm.
become accustomed to that. The baby boomers and now preceding or subsequent generations have become so accustomed to that. It's like when people got used to microwaves and faxes and email where everything is instant rather than
Yeah.
waiting. I mean, I used to have I have a cousin who in her earlier years was a missionary in Africa. We would write a letter on that real thin featherweight paper
Yeah.
and send it, and 6 weeks later she'd get it.
Oh, I remember doing that with you guys when I moved to Holland when I was racing bikes over there. That would have been 91 probably. And
Yeah,
a phone call was like $2.50 a minute. So we
a
didn't do
minute.
that. Yeah. And
Think how things have changed. And once
oh
they've
my
changed,
gosh.
it's hard to be content with the old way. It's hard
Yeah.
to be content with a 3-day delivery when you know you can get it in one. Thus, anybody who has an online product, you really need to look at the potential of being in the Amazon system.
Okay.
It's just so hard to stand out. For one thing, their audience is so enormous, you can't compete with that as a primary individual brand. You're never going to do it. So if you're there, they can draw people to you if they show you're getting a little traction. They can drive people to you like you'd never be able to do on your own. Now, I'm not just promoting Amazon. There are a lot of downsides to that behemoth that they've created, but the reality is they are the big player.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. How about on the service side, service industries, which I haven't paid attention to them. That's why you've got you here on the show. I don't know. I know there's some service industries have gone through the roof because we're now all more sequestered and at our home, at our office, whatever. We're having services come to us more than ever. Are there any service area industries that you've seen that are struggling because of this, and others that have increased? I mean, you talked about like the DoorDash, that type of thing, but even like in the home services, carpet cleaners and window washers and dry
So then,
cleaners and all these things.
when you mentioned that, carpet cleaners, window washers, yard service guys, roofers, people like that, they don't have to worry about being outsourced to China, India, or Taiwan. You can't, so they have security that a lot of people don't have because they're not as vulnerable to being outsourced like that. We have a massage therapist who comes to our house. I'm not going to go online shopping for somebody that's $5 cheaper, who lives 3 states away. It doesn't relate. I
Yeah.
need somebody who's local, who can show up at our door, come into our house and deliver that service. So some of those people, if they're good, they have absolutely guaranteed their security because they're providing something. Now, you mentioned, some of the things that you and Dr. Randy James are doing. We've seen a lot of telemedicine in
Yeah.
this last year, where people are used to having a doctor where you can just visit via Zoom. Now, as well as I do, there are a lot of times you go to see a doctor and he never touches you, where it is just verbal conversation, verbal information, and comes up with a diagnosis, prescription, or whatever. But that's not the 100%. There's still, say, 20% of the time where it can't be done virtually. You need to see somebody. You want to walk in. Think about dentistry. Well, you can't really get the service there virtually. You're going to go in and get. So there's a lot of service providers that have not been hurt in this. Are they careful in their encounters? Sure, they can do that, but they're going to continue with the one-on-one personalized service that they've done for years.
I mean, you just moved into a new house. Are there some, yeah, I'm trying to think, what are some of the service industries? Like you're talking about coaching because of what's happened, coaching is more in demand than ever. What are some of the ones? I mean, obviously delivery services
Yes.
are at an increase. Have there been some others? Because again, it's so interesting hearing people talk about stuff. I don't spend my time thinking about this. It's not my lane specifically with
Yeah.
business and opportunities
You
to see
you
which
know
ones are growing.
Noah Torres, who has done our yard work
Oh, right.
up in Tennessee for 30 years. Usually, uh, during the winter, things really slow down, and he really reduces his staff because you're not mowing grass, all that. Not this year. Here's what happened. He said, usually when I go to work somewhere, we go to mow the yard. I see the wife, she waves, and we go ahead and do our work. He said, now the husbands are home. They've been home. They're saying, wow, what about that deck that we wanted?
Oh,
What about that water feature we'd like to have in the front? What about a stamped concrete sidewalk that we'd like to put in? He has never been so covered up with work right through the winter
wow.
as he is this year. That changed dramatically. We did, in moving into our new house here, we wanted new cushions for the furniture out on our lanai around the pool. We had an enormous wait time, weeks of wait, because they're so backed up, because so many people want new furniture, got new furniture for outside
Yeah.
areas because they're spending more time at home. So there are a lot of things that are related around the home in terms of service industries that have exploded this year as a result of what happened.
And it'd be a great list of things like that we just don't, perceive. So I happen to be one area I do have my pulse on, obviously, is the biking community. I'm a big cyclist. I'm part of Facebook groups. So I've got, the Colorado Springs mountain bike group, the Front Range mountain bike group. Now that I got a fat tire bike, the fat tire, I mean, there's groups for all of them. And I go in there and I'll literally ask questions. Hey, I just got this bike. I'm wondering about the tire pressure, or whatever. It's just free information you get, immediately. And what about this trail? I did that the other day. I thought, man, I'm interested in this trail. Went on there, just typed in the trail in the search engine in Facebook, and boom, somebody 20 hours ago posted, hey man, the trails down here, they're clear, they're fast, they're awesome. And boom, I went down there. But one of the things I've seen there, actually, this is what happened. So Cannondale, I did a sponsorship with them, I don't know, a year ago or more. They sent me a bike. I love the thing. I contacted them probably around the end of last year and said, hey, I'm looking at wanting a fat tire bike. Let's work out a deal and do that. They said, man, we would love to. We are sold out. We have none. We can't supply the
Yeah.
dealers. And so now that's the joke here is, I mean, people are buying, if you buy a new bike, you're going to wait months for it. And if you got a used bike, you can make some cash right now. Uh, and now I'm here. And as you know, as we've been talking in the family chat, we're looking at the idea of doing some RVing, and I haven't gotten into it a whole lot, but the first word I heard is, oh man, that's a hot market right now, is RVs. Same thing. People had time. They're like, maybe we should take that trip.
And kids aren't going to school anyway.
Well, yeah, there you go. Yeah,
So
that's true.
yeah, people were forced into homeschooling. So why don't we take a trip together, do some adventures as a family that we've not been able to do before? Biking has absolutely exploded in 2020, the year that we just came through, because people are spending more time at home, more doing more things as a family. Rails to trails. I just saw a piece
Yeah.
on that just this week. Rails to trails has made more progress this year than they have in years and years previously.
Wow.
They're working on connecting trails, previously rail tracks that are now being converted to bike trails. And they ultimately will have 3,700 miles. They're connecting 145 trails across the country. They already have right at 2,000 miles continuous that will start in Washington and head toward Washington, D.C. We have right here
That's
near us Legacy Trail. Now we're
yeah.
way down in Florida, but Legacy Trail, it's only 12 and a half miles, but it goes from Sarasota down to Venice. Incidentally,
I no, I saw. That's what you're going to say. My sister, your daughter, Ashley, talking about it, that it goes, it's what, a mile from their house and a mile from your house to get on
it's
it.
8/10 of a mile from our house and about the same from theirs. We can get on and connect our houses.
You and mom need e-bikes.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be excellent. Well, again, looking at opportunities, you're talking about, real estate and things like that. My gosh, if you have vacant land right now, especially if it's in a destination spot, what a hot spot for an RV campground. Those things have got to be maxed out for months.
I have a client right now who is developing RV sites.
Oh,
He said he can't imagine somebody buying duplexes, apartments, single res. He says the hottest leverage he's ever seen in his life in real estate is in developing RV parks.
wow.
When you think about it, you develop vacant land, put in water and sewer, and rent those out overnight. I mean, some of those things rent for like $100 a night, just a
Really?
space to pull in and hook up. He leveraged. I mean, last year he did one where he ended up ultimately with $600,000 in it. He just flipped it for 1.3 million because the
Goodness.
upside in terms of cash flow is so outrageous. And it's because more people are traveling. So we
Yeah.
can go on and on and on. I mean, this has been a challenging year, but we're talking about there are so many things in the whole home wellness industry, exercise, fitness, outdoor sports, all those things have just been absolutely accelerated by what happened.
Well, I mentioned Peloton. I got a hydro. People on this show have heard me advertising for hydro, and it's a
Sure.
rowing machine. It's just like Peloton. You get on a screen, and I do the live one. So I get on there, and there's somebody live doing it on, Lake Charles or wherever they are. And they're rowing, and I'm on the screen with a whole bunch of people racing each other. And then they get together on the Facebook group and talk and say, "Hey, let's get our group together and we'll do a race," and yada yada. And they're connecting there. And I've got my Met Pro coach that I'm working with that checks in with me every day. It's coaching me along on my diet and my goals there. And yeah, that because I wondered what's going to happen with this. Are we going to see people get sicker or weller? And of course, we just saw the people who were prone to being sicker got sicker.
Yeah,
People
they
prone to
did.
being weller got weller.
That's boy, that's exactly right.
Yeah,
Another indicator that we've seen this last year is giving is up. I have
really.
some friends who are involved in nonprofit, and you would think, well, everybody's really hunkered down, they're scared. No, not really. When there are challenging times, we tend to reach out and help each other more. If things are going well, it's like, well, nobody needs anything. When there's a tragedy, when there's a challenge, we see that no matter what it is, people tend to reach out and help each other. And giving overall is up dramatically for last year.
Wow. Did not did not know that. Well, any other business highlights that you're seeing right now, again, from an opportunity standpoint? And actually, I'd like to end on you speaking to where I started off with that for people who are listening to this and thinking about, hey man, what should I get into? What should I invest in? And your stick on how to match themselves up well, as opposed to just looking at what is hot.
Oh, wow. I love it. Thanks for the question. Yeah, it's easy to just to look out there and see what's really doing well and think I'll jump on the board. My advice is to first look inward. How has God uniquely gifted you? What are your unique skills and abilities, your unique personality traits, your values, dreams, and passions? That's 85% of the process of having the confidence of proper direction moving forward. 15% then is the application. Yeah, let's find something where I can blend what I know about myself and put it there. So if somebody's, I mean, I would rather help somebody get excited and be profitable in raising dandelions than to try to talk them into being a computer programmer just because we know there are opportunities there. No, follow your heart, follow your passion, follow your curiosity, and that'll develop into a passion. You combine that with a plan of action and see results. Now you've got a formula for purpose. Now you can take that and attach it to something that you really care about, a need where you see a need, and that becomes purpose and drive forward. And the opportunities are just so limitless. I don't want to be just some Pollyanna, everything's wonderful. But in spite of the things that are challenging in the last year, the opportunities along with that are too many to describe. But yeah, look at yourself first so you get a clear focus for what opportunity you want to hook yourself to moving forward.
Well, and you talked about that with the coaching aspect, that to say there's an opportunity there, but does it fit you? Are people asking you for information? Do you like helping guide and counsel people there? We could take the same way for somebody over here who just heard what you said a minute ago and says, man, I got a bunch of property here and there and whatever. Maybe I should, start developing that for campgrounds.
Yeah.
To there though, what would you say, where would you question them as far as their propensities, their experience, their understanding, their know-how? Because I've told, and probably a very very bad paraphrasing of a story, but your testimony to me one time, if I get it right, it was somebody who looked at franchising, thought, they heard Subways were doing really well, they're hard to get, they had an inroad, they got in there and they tanked because it was not a good fit for them. Just because the
Yeah.
franchise was a good fit, it wasn't a good fit for them. So as far as looking at, whether it's a Subway franchise or a piece of land that they could turn into a RV campground, where do they need to look for how that might be a fit or not for them? Because it's not a gold ticket in and of itself.
Absolutely. And that's where we come back to look inward first. The example you referenced there, the gentleman was an accountant. He'd been very successful as a CPA. So he had the cash to get a Subway. Well, it's a big deal. Subway, fastest growing franchise. We know they're extremely successful. So he got one. Actually, it wasn't Subway, but it was a similar name. I won't mention the name, similar to that. And it was a miserable, miserable experience for him. But think about it. As an accountant, he's very precise, prim and proper. Everything is in its place. Everything runs by precision. Now he's in something where somebody comes in, they spend $7 and then they complain about what they got. Are you kidding me? He has employees that, they show up 30 minutes late. Or I don't feel like coming in today. I mean, those things drove him nuts. Those are not clean, precise, exact kind of things. He's not a people person. Just somebody walking in the door was more like an interruption than an opportunity for a sale. It didn't fit him at all. He
Yeah.
made the mistake of looking at a business that was successful, but it did not fit him.
Yeah.
Thus, we're back to that. Oh my gosh, that's so important. Find out how you are uniquely gifted and use that as the basis for your focus moving forward. There are opportunities for really strange, rare things that nobody else in the world would want to do. But if that is your zone of genius, you can thrive and prosper there.
You know what? I do have one more topic, Dad. I had written it down, and I want to end on, if that's okay. Is the area of, I'm going to lump them together. Of, we talked about infopreneurs, but authoring information, those products. Obviously, we talked about if you were delivering those messages via speaking or live events. That's a place. It's not happening in person now. How are people doing that online successfully, and have things changed? And do you see more or less opportunity in that space right now?
I do. And it's a level playing field because people do not any longer see universities, as an example, as a repository of all wisdom. They see universities more as full of legacy training, meaning they're seeing things the way they were done a long time ago. But you can compete if you come up with, like you mentioned, your Stephen Kotler coming out with a new book on creating the future or living into the future or whatever. You can compete with the finest universities in the world if you have a really clear message like that. And the delivery is so easy because you don't have to expect people to come to a campus or even come to a conference. You can deliver that initially through a book I mean, it's a wonderful opportunity for those of us who are authors to get our message out there and then leverage it through other ways that people can experience the message as well. So, be that on online training, or it can be a course or a seminar or a mastermind or an online community. There's all kinds of ways to give people expanded opportunities to engage in your content. And that's what you have to do. You can't just think, well, I just submit my manuscript. You know this well. You talk to authors and you don't just submit a manuscript and then go sit by the mailbox and wait for royalty checks. No, you're going to be disappointed with that. But as an entry point for sharing your message and leveraging that, astounding opportunities, never been greater than now.
With that, and I'll lump them all together then, coaching, authoring, infopreneuring and whatnot, that there's so much out there in your statement that, yeah, you can, it's a level playing field, which I love. It's just like music, used to be, you had to get a music label. Now, if you can
That's
play
right.
some music, man, jump on YouTube, knock yourself out. If it's good, it'll go. But in that, credibility, I see people bumping up against that so often. How do they, especially if they're new, wanting to get into the space, or
Yeah.
those who have even gotten in, but they haven't hit that yet and they're wondering why? There is so much noise out there, so many people claiming it. The aspect of how to prove, how to gain trust and prove your credibility, because like you said, what we were talking about, that coaching, anybody can call themselves a coach.
Yes.
You can self-publish your book. You can put that
Yes.
information out, create a course, yada yada. But how do we know you're credible?
Well, being successful involves a whole lot more than just creating good content. That's a topic for a long conversation. But there are a lot of people who are talented. I mean, we see musicians who are extremely talented, no question about it. Well, in the biking world, we used to see kids who had really great physical ability. They really did, but they were never going to be competitors
Well,
at
it's
all.
the Seth Godin thing. They've got great art, but they're never going to bring it to market. They can't get their stuff together, and we'll never know about it.
That's right. They can't get themselves together, so they don't have the personal discipline to stay healthy physically. They don't know how to relate to people well, so that people will start to engage with them. Well, it doesn't matter what our art is, what it is that we're going to deliver. We have to learn the business of what we're doing, and that's not to just be cold, calculated about business, but just the sense of how do you make this successful? How do you relate to other people? A lot of times when people are starting a business, they'd be better off, rather than taking another course to go deeper into their content, they'd be better off to read Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It'll do more to move your career forward than just going deeper in your area of expertise.
Yeah.
So it's a bigger picture when we talk about personal success. When we talk about the masters of achievement who we really admire, people like Zig. You look at his life that he lived. He talks a lot about that. It wasn't just about him being really good at sales and teaching people about that, although he's well known for that and rightfully so. But it was way more than that. I'm starting right now to walk people through in our community through Think and Grow Rich. We're going to spend the entire year going through that book. I'm totally jazzed about it because we're going to be able to go deep in the principles of success. And it's not because there's one focus and that is to get more money than anybody else. No. Is that a byproduct? Yeah, it's in there somewhere. But being rich implies a whole lot more. Call myself a familionaire because I consider myself wealthy beyond description in terms of family relationships. So we have to learn that part. It's not just about having a savant ability in a particular area or knowledge in a particular area. That alone will not do anything at this point. It won't do anything to move the needle, won't do a whole lot to make your life successful. It's a beginning point, but then you have to learn the other components of true success.
Hey, thanks. I'm gonna go
Hey, my
turn my
pleasure,
field
man. I
into
love
a
the
into an
conversation.
RV campground. No, it's
Uh,
it's great. Again, it's not an area that I spend time on, but that's why I wanted you here, because I kept having this said by somebody and this said by somebody. And, man, things are changing out there, and some of it I got to admit, where in my space things have not changed. Podcasting, it's getting listened to plenty, and writing people are doing, and I've seen a couple funny memes. kind of introvert, memes of son of a gun. My life hasn't changed any. I don't know if that's good or bad, but seeing that there's so much change out there, and I know people are wondering what should they do, where should they turn, how should they pivot. So thank you for the insight for today, Dad.
Oh, I had fun conversation. Well, we have to go back to that quote I shared early, and that is we want to be parents of our future rather than the offspring of our past. This is a very dangerous time to be just dependent on your past for guaranteeing your success because things are changing so rapidly.
It
And our
has made
school,
me scared of, or I should say, healthily concerned about being reactive. That this is the time I got to be proactive and intentional. Because if I wait till whatever happens, as people realize, man, that's dangerous.
that's dangerous. Yep, you'll be very vulnerable if you're trying to do things today the same way you were doing them 10 years ago. But you know what? You're vulnerable if you're doing things the same way you were doing a year ago and expect it to continue because everything is up for change.